We watched WWE Elimination Chamber February 18th, 2023. It was not just a show. It was not fine. This was a memorable show for a bunch of reasons, actually. Although very few of them are in the opener. We had the Women's Elimination Chamber match.
I actually thought this was a good chamber match for the women.
I thought it was fine and utterly forgettable until Asuka got in at the very end, and then it got cranked up several notches.
Well, yeah, Asuka's fantastic, and she largely carried the entire match, but...
Well, yeah, but she
was the last one in, and she did great, and so when it was over, you remember it being like a good match. At the end of the day, that's what matters. It doesn't matter if it was a horrible match, which it wasn't, but if it's a horrible match for half of it, and then the second half is awesome, and you remember it being awesome, then it was awesome.
Fair enough. And it's certainly better than if she had, for example, started and then been eliminated halfway through. That would have been much worse. Even if the rest of the match is exactly the same, that would have made things much worse. So we get Liv Morgan and Natalya to start, and they're trying to do a super violent chamber match, but they can't do any blood. So they're throwing each other into the cage a lot, throwing each other into the pod a lot, sticking heads through the links in the cage because the gaps are very big to choke each other. Raquel Rodriguez is in there. Now, I watched Raquel when she was Raquel Gonzalez in NXT for years, and in that promotion, she almost always wrestled in like leather pants and like a sports bra top or a halter top, whatever you want to call it. Now she has a multicolored superhero suit like everyone else in the company, and aside from the fact she's still the biggest, strongest woman there, she does look like everyone else, which is kind of a negative. I will say the upside...
Before you go on, I just have to say something about costumes and everything else. There's a lot of awesome things about WWE nowadays, and whatever you think about the main event of this show, as we're going to talk about, they did a great job building to Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn in Montreal. They've done a great job with Cody. There's a lot of things that have greatly improved since they got rid of Vince McMahon, but there's a couple of things that, believe it or not, were way better a little while ago. One of them is certain costuming, as you noted, like Raquel has gone from, whatever to just, wearing the same clothes everyone else wears. The big one to me is the music.
Yeah.
What in the fuck is going on with this fucking music? Like, at least, thank God above, they kept Sami Zayn's old music, because they're changing everybody's music. And I bring it up here, not only because of your comment about Raquel, but Asuka. What the fuck is up with this new Asuka music? This song sucks. Her old song was fucking great. And somebody decided, we're going to get all of these old songs that were cool, and we're going to change them and make them significantly less cool. And a lot of them are like, Tyler Bate. Remember Tyler Bate's old music? Mm-hmm. Dude, his old music was awesome. And it's not like they gave him a totally new song. What they did was literally give him an elevator music version of his old song. Exactly. It's like kind of like his old song, but it's a really shitty version of the actual old song. It's like, fuck. What is happening here? I mean, yeah, maybe it's a copyright issue or whatever, but whoever the fuck is taking over the music making, with all due respect, it sucks. They all sound the same. There's nothing special. None of the songs stick out except Seth's, which is funny because his music actually sucks. It's like, it's the most nothing happened in music, but because it's so easy, the fans have decided they like to sing it, and so now they sing his song. But if the fans didn't sing his song, it's a nothing happening generic song. So anyway, I hate the music. I think it sucks. And Roman stands out. But, Johnny Gargano, they fucking changed his music to some shitty version of it. I don't like this new music.
Well, I don't like her new gear, but I will say this. The one thing about this new gear is that her best physical feature is her broad, muscular back. It's why she comes out and does the big-ass lap pose. And this exposes more of her back, because you can see how muscular and strong she is. So that is a good thing. But on the whole, she stands out less than she did. So this is all more interesting than anything she actually does in this match. She comes in here, she throws people around for a while until Nikki Cross comes in. She was wrestling for the first half in like a robe. I guess her entrance robe. She just wore the thing in her pod for 15 minutes. And then climbed up on top of a pod. Finally took it off to fire up the crowd. It does a big dive off of it, and everyone just lays around for a while. Carmella comes into the match. Apparently her marriage to Corey Graves is public knowledge now. I think last time I was watching, it was
Yeah, it's been public knowledge for a while.
it was hinted at, but now they're just openly talking about it. So she's in there to try to steal some pins. She's taunting Asuka, and then when Nikki goes after her, she tries to hide in a pod. So Raquel breaks the pod using Nikki as a weapon, and they're showing a bunch of replays. And Raquel pins Nikki. Nobody's quite sure if it was a pin. Nobody's quite sure how it happened. Everyone was very confused. The production of the show was a severe step back from what I've seen recently. And this is one of them. They did finally show a replay. It was just like a power slam or something. But, no, it was even that. She threw her into the pod to break it and get Carmella out, and then just rolled her into the ring and pinned her. Big spot where Raquel is conveniently waiting on the top rope or the middle rope forever, so Liv can do a sunset flip off a pod. Big, huge spot, not even elimination. And finally, Asuka comes in. She is the last one of the match. And as we talked about, listen, I like all these women. I especially really like Natalya and Raquel. But Asuka is on such another level. Like, she's so good.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, she's so good. I don't want to say she makes everyone else look bad, but she kind of makes everyone else look bad because they're not as good as she is, clearly.
I would not say that she makes everybody look bad, but when you watch her, you realize, oh my God. And you know what? She was coming off an injury. And sometimes people come off an injury and maybe they're gun shy or whatever. And it's not like she's in her 20s. I don't know how old she is, but I think she's in her mid 30s. And man, she came back from that injury. And she has never been this good in WWE. She was not this good in NXT. She was not good when she first came up to the main roster. Her work is so... Someone says she's in her 40s. Is that true? She's in her early 40s? That's almost physically impossible. 41. She's impossibly great. Impossibly great. And every match she has had since coming back, like, she's not just... It used to be she was like the best person in the match. But since she's come back, and this is not any disrespect to the other WWE women, because a lot of them are really good, but she's miles above everybody. I don't know how. I don't know why. But it's like, we were doing predictions for the show, and, I had to do a prediction for this match, and my prediction was Asuka. And it wasn't because of any booking or anything like that. It was, well, Bianca Belair is going to defend against whoever wins his chamber. And by far, by miles, the best working woman in this match is Asuka. She is the one that I want to see against Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. And sure enough, apparently I wasn't the only one who thought that because Hunter put her over.
Yeah. So when she gets in, actually, I guess Nikki had been eliminated, but you mentioned how... It's best that she was in at the end as opposed to the beginning, but all I could think was this would have been so much better if she had just been the first or second or third woman in for the entire time. But they saved her to the end, and it's better than sticking her at the beginning. So the easiest pop you could possibly do for the opener of this show here in Montreal is Natalya taking one of these replaceable women, doesn't even matter who, putting them in the sharpshooter and tapping her out clean in the middle of the ring. Easy peasy. So she grabs Liv Morgan, and she sinks in that sharpshooter and sinks it in tight. And I typed in, Natalya taps out Liv with a sharpshooter, huge pop. And I look at the screen, and Liv's fighting, and fighting, and fighting. Asuka finally joins in. She puts in some wacky arm hold. She's going to tear her arm off as well. And Liv is fighting, and fighting, and fighting. And finally she blacks out to the pain, and the referee calls to the bell and is eliminated. Huge boos. And immediately then, Natalya puts the sharpshooter on Asuka, but Carmella kicks Natty in the face and pins her. So in the end of this match, nobody submitted to the sharpshooter.
And there was no reason
she could
not have submitted Nikki Cross with the sharpshooter.
Or Liv Morgan, or Carmella.
Well, at least with Liv, it's like they're trying. I mean, they want her to be like one of their main event women. And so it was like, well, she's got to submit, so we'll have two people putting her in a hold, and she passes out instead of giving up, because a good babyface never gives up, brother. But they didn't want to do that, so... or that's what they did. They didn't want her to submit. So, but they could have had Nikki Cross submit. There's no reason Nikki Cross couldn't have submitted.
They could have a Carmella submit. But I guess maybe that would have made her husband mad. I don't know. So, especially, by the way, I watched this show. The first half of it I watched Sunday morning. The second half I watched Sunday evening. I was traveling on Saturday. But it would be one thing if the finish to the show was Sami Zayn winning with a sharpshooter. Spoiler, it wasn't. So there's no reason Natalya couldn't have tapped out one person in this match just to make the crowd happy for 5 seconds. So let's see. At this point, it's down to 3, and Carmella and Asuka realize Raquel Rodriguez is still the giant Rodriguez. She is still an issue. They double team her, kick her to death, and do a double pin on her. And now it's down to Carmella and Asuka, with the winner facing Bianca Belair, probably in one of the main events of WrestleMania. Gee, I wonder who will win. There are points in this last few minutes. Have you ever seen Ibushi or Omega wrestling like the blow-up doll, the wrestling dummy in Japan? It honestly looked like that. Asuka was wrestling herself at points here. And it was awesome. And she quickly won with the submission. I thought this match was, however long it was, 15 minutes or so of mediocrity, which is fine.
15 minutes? I think it went longer than that. But
until Asuka got in.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and once Asuka got in there, it was very, very, very good. So Asuka wins. She points to the sign, elevated the entire match by sheer force of will. Asuka rules. That was a very, very good opener by the end.
Yep, I thought it was, I would go as far as say very good, largely because of Asuka in the last few minutes, but I thought it was well put together. I thought that everyone largely, there were no obvious botched spots that I can recall in this match. And they worked hard. They did their usual crazy stuff. The fans were into it. I would overall give this a pretty hearty thumbs up.
Oh, easy thumbs up. Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar was weird. Really weird.
I will say that I also did a prediction on this match, and I did predict that they were going to do some sort of screwy finish because I figured there's one of two things that's happening right here. Either, well, actually, on Friday, anyway, I thought they're probably going to do another match at WrestleMania because everyone is saying they're not going to be doing Brock and Gunther anytime soon. So if you're going to do another match with these two guys at WrestleMania, you have got to have some sort of screwy finish. Of course, then you don't watch SmackDown. On SmackDown Friday night, fucking Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy are out there.
I heard there was a challenge or a warning issued.
And Bray Wyatt was out there to say, whoever survives in this Brock Lesnar-Bobby Lashley match, I can't remember what he said because my brain kind of shut off at that point. Like,
right.
What the fuck? So, here's the thing with this Bray Wyatt. I think this gimmick sucks. I think the matches are largely always stupid, okay? People like the guy, they buy his gimmicks or whatever, but it doesn't do anything for me. With that said, Brock fucking Lesnar against The Fiend,
not even
or
The Fiend.
Uncle Howdy, or
Brock
both,
selling for a puppet.
It's like one of those things where I can't fathom it. It would be like I was so like I gotta see this, and I think we actually are gonna see it at some point because they've teased it. But I figured, that if these guys are wrestling at Mania, which I presume they are, they've got to do some sort of screwy finish, and they did. But until that point, I thought they had an excellent 4 minute and 30 seconds.
I love the 4.5 minutes we got, but
yes.
It was weird in that. All right, so was this just a Montreal reaction, or is Bobby Lashley the heel and Brock Lesnar the babyface?
Bobby Lashley is now a heel.
Okay. Because that's what I thought. But when you watch this, there is almost nothing they could have done to make Brock Lesnar any more hateable, but it all failed. It didn't matter what they did to him. The crowd loved him and hated Lashley anyway. So Corey Graves had a great line here where he summarized.
Well, old Brock he's a Canadian now. You see,
that is true.
He's a Saskatchewanian.
I had not considered that. He is a
and local... a Sasquatch.
I'll tell him you said that. He is regardless, yes, he was the local hero on the show, as it turns out.
Yes.
As Corey Graves pointed out, Brock Lesnar matches, you start with the heavy artillery, you know it's going to end with a spear or an F5, and you just enjoy it while it lasts. And these two big monsters go to town. I was thinking about this. Brock Lesnar, maybe Undertaker. I think Brock Lesnar is like the closest thing we've seen to Andre the Giant since Andre the Giant. And that he's a physical freak with a different aura than you get from anyone else. And in that respect, Bobby Lashley would be the parallel to Big John Studd, who was a very, very big man in his own right until you see him next to Andre. Bobby Lashley is a huge, huge man. And he's in there with Brock Lesnar, and he looks like a junior. He's so much smaller. But he's not small, and they're throwing each other around. It is heavy artillery, as promised.
Dude, Brock was big in this match. He was gigantic. Yes. And yeah, even next to Lashley was like, this is a big dude.
So there's F5s, there's spears, there's suplexes, there's repeated tries at the hurt lock. And finally, Lashley gets this hurt lock in, the full Nelson. He's got the hooks in, he's got his hands clamped. It's a deep full Nelson. And here's Brock Lesnar, former NC2A champion, former UFC champion. He knows his way around the mat. He knows how to escape all these holds. Until today, he can escape. He's trapped. He knows it. So he takes the easy way out and hits a nut shot for the DQ. Brock Lesnar pussed out. That's what happened in the show. Crowd loved it. Crowd goes crazy.
Well, you know, he did cheat. You know, I was thinking about this just now, and when it comes to finishes, and I don't know what they're going to do at WrestleMania. They're probably going to have these two, you know, blokes wrestle each other, whatever. But I just came up with a new idea that I think is better than their idea, and that is that Brock should have been in the hurt lock, and then he powers and breaks free. And then he switches and he goes behind old Lashley. And he grabs him and he does a big German suplex. And they're both down. And the referee counts, but both of their shoulders are down. And so it's a double pin. Okay? Yeah. So you do the double pin. And, you know, the referee, you know, he raised this guy's hand. And then another referee comes out and goes, no. And he raised the other guy's hand. And then, you know, they start arguing back and forth about whoever won the match. And then the fucking lights go out. And they play that fucking song, and out comes Bray and Uncle Howdy.
Oh, God.
And they put a beat down on Brock and Bobby Lashley. And, you know, you can do whatever you're going to do. And then you announce for WrestleMania, it is Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley against Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy. Brother, that's a fucking match. I don't care what you think about I don't care what you think about Bray. I don't think what you care about the storyline or the matches. I want to see Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley against Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy at WrestleMania.
Well,
that is a fucking dream match.
The nicest thing I can say about it is that would be something new.
Yes!
It would absolutely be new. So after Brock pushes out here...
Sometimes you're asleep and you have a dream, and you wake up, and you're like, what the fuck? That's what this match is, dude. That's what this match is. You fucked us out in the main event in Montreal. At least give us something. Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley against Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy in a fucking tag team match at WrestleMania.
So Brock takes the coward's way out here. Takes the cheap DQ because he can't out-wrestle Bobby Lashley. Then he lays out the ref like it's the ref's fault he was beaten. Crowd loves this. Then he takes takes Lashley, who was laid out with an illegal move, and F5s on the table. Crowd loves this. And Brock is leaving the conquering hero after losing, cheating, whining, and bitching. Essentially, I should say pouting. He did not bitch, but he's definitely pouting. He was a sore loser, and the crowd just loves him. It was so bizarre.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was because of the fucking carnage. I mean, dude, this guy is just like, you can try to make him a heel or whatever, but this guy is a natural babyface. Fans want to see wanton violence and destruction. You're going to get it every time this guy comes out. He gave it to them. That referee, I don't think was supposed to take that second F5. I think Brock just saw that poor bloke lying there, and he was like, you're going to get it too, brother. And he gave him the F5 onto the rubble, and fans just were like, man, I don't give a shit what happened. We saw violence here, and they did. I love this. It was a stupid finish.
It was tremendous fun. It was silly.
Yes, that's the point. It was fun.
Yes. I don't usually comment on the in-between match stuff because I'm usually trying to fast forward on the Peacock app on the Xfinity box. It's not always easy, but I caught this Seth Rollins as the Joker bit for WrestleMania Goes Hollywood. This was perfect. Seth as the Joker is like, Sting tried to be a Joker for years. It sucked. There's somebody else. Penta has the Joker gear, but he's just Penta. Seth Rollins as the Joker makes total sense. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, well, I wish he'd just be the fucking Joker again instead of this Joker half-ass character that he's doing right now that you beat the shit out of me.
He basically
just
is...
Just let him go all in on the Joker.
He is basically in, like, gimmick purgatory, where he started to turn into the Joker and got halfway there and just stopped. That's basically what he's done. Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley versus Edge and Beth Phoenix. This is long. It was very sloppy in spots, but I really, really, really liked it.
You want to know why? Because Rhea Ripley and Beth Phoenix decided we're going to go out there and we're going to try to top Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley.
I had the same thought.
We're going to go out there and we're going to show you how to beat the shit out of each other.
I liked Brock and Bobby, but I think Beth and Rhea did Haas Warfare better than they did.
Oh, they did hostile warfare all right, because the other two guys had 4 minutes, so it was just big move, big move, big move. There were 3 fucking F5s and 3 spears in 4 minutes in that match.
Yeah.
This, they had to put in time. And so they could do the spot where one, boom, it's a clothesline and the other one stands there. Boom, it's a clothesline and the other one stands there. I mean, they did a good job. I thought that they really, honestly, stole the show in this match.
It was great.
The fans saw Edge as the biggest star by miles, because, man, they hit that guy's music, and he was so over. And they said he hadn't wrestled in Montreal in 17 years. And, he was good, and Finn Balor was good. But, I mean, it was like they were secondary to Beth Phoenix and Rhea Ripley, who I thought were great until Beth fucked up that pin breakup.
Beth fucked up there. She was late to break up a pin. That was bad. And there was a part
which
of
got booed. The fans booed.
But it was really bad. It was really bad.
But it was Edge that got saved.
But
they were booing that the ref should have counted 3 on Edge in this match.
She was so late. The ref had to just. He goes 1 and 2, and he goes to count 3 and like waves his hand at the mat for no reason because Edge's shoulders are down. Then Edge kicks out like 3.5, and then Beth shows up. That moment was very bad, if we're being honest. And there was another point when she was in there with Rhea, and it was early, and they just kept going. It didn't really matter, but somebody just completely forgot whatever they were doing, and they just stopped.
Yeah, Rhea went to the ropes, and then Beth started running at her, and then she just.
Stopped.
Got her when she got there.
Yeah,
she just got her, and then they did more stuff. I mean, it was a botch, but they covered it up good enough.
The broken pin was a much bigger deal, but yeah, and the heat segment was on Beth, and it's in theory a mixed tag match, so it's supposed to only be women versus women and then men versus men, which means once you get the heat on somebody, there are no tags until it's time for the comeback. So it's Rhea versus Beth for a long time, and it's really good. And they did a bit where Finn yanked Edge off the apron and took him out. So Beth couldn't tag out. So she made her own comeback for a while for a little hope spot. And then I love what they did to set up the real hot tag. Because I forget exactly how it was. But Finn's in the ring. I think he was trying to distract the ref or he was trying to help Rhea hit a double team. But he's in the ring illegally. But then Beth kicks Rhea into Finn, and they go bonk and they go down, and she goes and dives and hot tags Edge, and now Finn's already there to feed the comeback. That timing was great stuff. They go back and forth for a few minutes. There's a spot where the two dudes are fighting on the top rope, and the women come in and each picks up the dude and didn't just powerbomb him off the ropes, but picks him up and carries him around the ring for a while. Now, Beth had to carry Finn Balor. I think Finn was the smallest person in this match, including either woman. Rhea had to carry Edge. And Edge is a very lean man, but he's also 6'5". That's a lot of human being to cart around the ring and powerbomb him. That spot got over huge because it was so awesome. And eventually, they're teasing the concerto on Beth on the stairs, but she escapes that, lays out Rhea with a glam slam on the floor. Rhea sold that great. And Edge runs wild, hits the execution on Finn, takes out Dominic. I didn't even mention Dominic yet. Dominic Mysterio, the only comparison I can make in this day and age is he's WWE's answer to Sammy Guevara in that he's the most hated person in the match that he's not in and he's not doing anything. He's just standing on the floor and the crowd chanting F you Dominic over and over again. They hated him and he wasn't even doing anything for most of the match. But at the end, Edge wipes him out with a tope. Yes, Edge at I think he's 48. or something. But
He's like 48, 49 years old.
Yeah, if it's a big tope on Dominic Mysterio.
Well, you know, first time in 17 years in Montreal. But if I had as many injuries as that guy's had, I would not have done that move.
Fair point.
But he did it, and he pulled it off.
And he gets to the ring, goes to the spear, gets sling-bladed or slung blade or whatever the past tense for that word is. But pops up out of that, gets the spear, and then Edge and Beth, this is odd, they hit the Shatter Machine, which is what the announcers called it, and they got the win.
Yes.
All in all, this was great. This is my second favorite match of the show, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Yep, thought this was a very fun match. There was good wrestling in it. There were, I shouldn't say it was a star-making performance because Rhea's already a star, but man, I thought she looked great in this match. And Beth looked great, and everything clicked. Crowd was awesome. Another big thumbs up.
All right, so this is the point in the show where I had to take a break for a few hours, and I came back to finish it later. Maybe that's why. Maybe it was going on over there, I didn't notice, but it's time for the men's chamber match. And maybe it's just me, but the camera work and direction in this match was horrendous from the start. It starts with Johnny Gargano and Seth Rollins, and they're just doing very basic lucha wrestling, leg sweep, make a cover, roll out, leg sweep, make a cover, roll out. And there's 1,000 camera cuts and zooms for this very basic stuff. I don't know why. And it kept going. It gets worse as we'll get into. But very distracting and detracting from the match was the production here. The other issue, and I guess we'll just get to the end here because it's part of it. There's this is the U.S. title chamber match, and the star power sucks. The U.S. belt came out of this looking very, very poor because you have Austin Theory, who's the champion, Seth Rollins, who is a total legit star, and then Johnny Gargano, Damian Priest, Bronson Reed, and Montez Ford. I love those men, all right? Those guys are all great. I have no problem with them as people or as characters, but they are not big stars on the WWE roster. So the only guy who could be a star here and like carry this U.S. title is Seth Rollins, and it comes down to him being the last guy in the match. And then Logan Paul runs in to interfere and wipe him out, even though he obviously is facing, I don't know if it's announced yet, but we all know it's happening, Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins at Mania, which makes it come off like Logan actively does not want the U.S. title. So the champion got buried. The entire U.S. division, finger quotes, got buried. It's what WWE booking has been for a long, long time. They always do this. It's more important to screw the guy and stop him from getting the title, even though in theory, if Seth was champion, then Logan would get a title shot. He'd rather not have the title shot. I don't know. It drives me nuts. But they've done it forever. So, Johnny Gargano.
I would say that you're in the minority on this one here, Vinny. I mean, I thought this was a pretty great match overall. I will say, I will not disagree. Austin Theory, dude, Vince loved Austin Theory. And when Vince was around, his whole deal was, I got to get this Austin Theory over. And he came out and he endorsed Austin Theory. And they did the deal. He was like his surrogate dad. And they did all of this shit. And, you know, then he won Money in the Bank. And even though he lost all of his matches, he was still linked with Vince and everything. Now Vince is gone. And, you know, I thought, okay, well, now what? And what Triple H decided was, we are going to still go with this guy. We're going to make him the United States champion. And he ends up winning the United States title. And, bro, I got nothing against the guy, but what the fuck are they doing with Austin Theory? He, like, of all the guys in this chamber, who stood out the least in this match? It was Austin Theory.
Yep.
Seth Rollins was a bigger star.
Yep.
Montez Ford got to do that thing off the top that everybody went crazy for, and a lot of crotch chops, and they made him look like a future single star. Bronson Reed was fucking great in this match.
Bronson Reed ruled, yes.
He was awesome in this match. What else do we have in here?
Damian Priest looked very good.
Damian Priest, I mean, he, in general on the show, comes off as a bigger deal than Austin Theory. Johnny Gargano, they gave that guy a ton of spots. Like, you knew he wasn't going to win, but they put him in there, and he looked good. And literally everybody, every single person in this match stuck out not just more than Austin Theory, but like way more than Austin Theory. And in the end, he won. And it was like, okay, now what? Now who is going to wrestle? Well, actually, we know it's going to be Edge on Raw tomorrow night. But I mean, it's I don't even get it.
Who could care?
I didn't like it when they were shoving him down our throat, but at least when they were shoving him down our throat, it was like, okay, they want to do something with this guy. It's irritating, but clearly they see him as like the next big thing or whatever. Now he's just the champion. They don't shove him down our throat. They don't do jack shit with him, really. I don't get what's going on.
So Seth and Gargano are there for their 5 minutes or however long the period is. Nothing really happens. Austin Theory is the third man in, and he immediately attacks his old dad, Johnny Gargano, in NXT. That broke my heart. And Corey even brought this up. Their faction was called The Way and all that. So the second period here, between the time when Austin Theory got in and Damian Priest next, was mostly verbal. More verbal than physical. As after a brief scuffle, Austin tried to make friends with Seth, and then he tried to make friends with Johnny, and Johnny teased being friends with Austin, but it was a swerve, and he turned on Austin. So Austin goes to hide in a pod, which we had already seen in the show because there's 2 chamber matches in the show, which you don't need to do. And at least they did do something different in that he's so dumb, because he's a geek, this U.S. champion, that he only locked one door of the pod. And so Seth was there to just come in the other way and attack him from behind. And then Johnny and Seth lock themselves in the pod and beat him until the period ends. So it was funny. But again, this does the U.S. Championship no favors. Damian Priest is in next. Kills everyone. God, Theory is just the biggest goob in this match. He's so stupid. And Priest is in there killing Gargano and killing Seth. And Theory is like cheering him on, oblivious to the fact this man's going to kill him next. And of course he killed him next. And big giant kick exchange ends with Priest, the only one standing. That's when Bronson Reed comes in. And like you said, Bronson Reed was awesome in this match. The part, I think it was Gargano and Rollins. He had him like a double Samoan drop. And this is not, I'm going to like have 2 guys in the top rope and barely teeter out just a little bit, then fall down. This is, I'm going to get 2 guys on my shoulders, walk around with these. I expected him to actually start doing squats for reps with these 2 guys on his shoulders. He didn't quite do that. But it was very easy for him to Samoan drop both of them at the same time. And he's running all over the place, smashing guys in the cage, smashing guys in the pod. Montez Ford is, in fact, the last person in. They do a spot where Gargano is on Bronson Reed's shoulders. And I forget if it was Montez or Seth. One of them does essentially a doomsday device onto Gargano. Only Gargano tries to turn it into a poison rana on Bronson Reed. This was very, very ugly and nearly tragic. As Bronson Reed about fell on his head. That looked terrifying. So we get the big Montez spot, which is everyone's brawling. I don't think anyone even been eliminated yet. Everyone's brawling outside the ring on the little apron area there, and Montez climbs the cage for a while. He's climbing. It's very obvious what's going to happen. He's either get to the very top and either jump off the side, or he's going to hang and drop or something. And I keep thinking, okay, show me a wide shot so I can see how high Montez Ford actually is. Show me a wide shot. You got plenty of time. It's a big cage. He's climbing for several minutes. Show me a wide shot. They never did. So they never actually got an impression for how high Montez Ford was. All you got was him hanging upside down from the cage. He was hanging by his hands, but he was like had the soles of his feet on the cage.
It's called a skin the cat in gymnastics. It's what the actual skin the cat is, and not the thing that they call the skin the cat, which is actually a pullover.
Yeah, he's basically doing the Spider-Man pose, hanging by his wrist there. And he lets go, and he falls for a while and falls. Everyone, crowd goes crazy for it. Everyone loves it, but it was not
because everyone in the crowd saw the long shot.
Yes.
We did not see.
No. So finally, everyone realizes Bronson Reed is a big, strong. It's like what happened to Raquel actually in the women's match. This person is big and strong. It will take at least 2 of us to beat him. He got ganged up on by like 4 people, and eventually Ford pinned him with a frog splash. So everyone keeps brawling. Johnny and Seth end up sitting on top of one of the pods, and they start sitting like back to back, fighting guys off. And I figured they would just like do like double dives in opposite directions. But what happened was they ended up sitting there against the pod, back against the wall, laughing, drinking tea, eating finger sandwiches, just chilling. Eventually, they started fighting each other. Somebody tried to do it was those two. There was a Rana off the pod. The camera cut mid-move, so you couldn't really see what was going on, who got hit with it, who landed where. If I was Johnny Gargano flying upside down off this pod and the camera missed it, I would be furious. Absolutely furious. He ran wild for a bit. It's one of those things where the small babyface hits 800 moves in a row, and the big heel grabs him, in this case Damian Priest, hits one move, in this case the Razor's Edge, and pins him. Immediately then, Rollins and Seth pin Priest with a powerbomb blockbuster combo. That's apparently the Street Profits finish. We're down to 3 people now. Montez Ford is running wild. You mentioned this. I think Montez Ford did more crotch chops in this chamber match in 2023 than Hunter Hearst Helmsley did in all of 1998. He's just going crazy. And then something happened and Ford got pinned. So what the hell was that? And I rewound, and like the camera's in the middle of all this. This is why it was so confusing. But Montez went for a splash. Austin got the knees up. Montez sold getting the knees up by bouncing over and draping his head through the ropes, so Seth could stomp him on the outside. Austin Theory then punched Seth Rollins and then stole the pin on Montez Ford. Well, that was really complicated. The camera's right in the middle so you can tell what's going on. But it makes sense that Theory would punch Seth before stealing the pin, because now he has the advantage on Seth when there's only 2 of them. And then immediately Seth makes a comeback. Why did that all have to be so complicated? Why was that necessary? Why couldn't he have just stomped Montez, Austin gets the pin, and the last 2 guys just start fighting? Overthinking stuff. So Montez is theoretically injured. The officials are tending to him. Theory and Seth are politely just waiting for which I guess if it was a real injury, it's what you would do in a real fight. It takes a long time for 47 officials to get in there, and they're carting Montez out of the ring, and he's collapsing halfway through, and eventually Seth and Austin just start fighting again when Logan Paul runs out, hits a buckshot on Seth, hits Seth's own curb stomp, and Austin follows with whatever his move is and wins. So in the end, the U.S. title is buried because a bunch of geeks are fighting it. Logan Paul doesn't want the U.S. title. He would not want to sully his match with Seth with a U.S. championship match. And Austin Theory is trying to celebrate his win in the cage, but he's overshadowed by Logan Paul, the real star on the ramp. So,
well, Logan Paul and Seth Rollins is a much bigger match.
Yeah.
And whatever's going to happen with Austin Theory, unless he gets that match with John Cena, which I'm not expecting him to get.
Yeah. And again, the WWE has done this for years, so I'm kind of shouting at a dead horse here, or whatever the butchered metaphor would be. The live crowd loved this. I thought it was a lot of good stuff, but mostly I was just distracted by how terrible the camera work was.
I thought this was an excellent match. And in fact, a lot of people thought this was the second best match on the show.
I know.
I don't know if I would go that far, but when you think about it, it's one of those matches where you can overanalyze it. But when you think back and you think about, the guys that look great and the great cool things that they did and everything, especially like Bronson Reed and we'll look back someday and go, this was the beginning of something for Montez. And overall, I would say this was also a hearty thumbs up.
Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
We could do a whole show on this match, I think. Great recap video of this 10-month storyline. And this is sort of the culmination. I think there's still more to come at Mania, obviously. But they do Roman's entrance first. And Roman is excellent at taking a long-ass time to do absolutely nothing. He just walks out and stands there. But it takes him like a legit 10 minutes. And the crowd, this is not a criticism, by the way. The crowd hates him. Hates him. And eventually, he finally gets down there, and they just turn off the music and let the crowd sing Olay for a while. And that goes on for several minutes. And I thought, okay. And then Sami actually came out. And this crowd was beyond insane. This was like the hottest WWE crowd since like the peak of Daniel Bryan going into WrestleMania 2014. This is bonkers. Just bonkers. They get in there, and they do the intros. The bell rings. I didn't time it, but it felt like at least 5 minutes. They're just standing there, and then the crowd pissed themselves. God bless them. That's the correct thing to do. It's the best thing to do. They're just standing there, maybe a little smack talk, a little taunting, but they're just standing there and letting the crowd go nuts. Eventually, they just do this big-ass lockup, but the next 5 minutes, there's not that much more contact. There's a couple of headlocks. There's a couple of tackles. So we're like 10 minutes into the match before the thing actually like really, really honestly starts. And Sammy tosses Roman outside. He gets one big giant tope, but he has like 2 moves back in the ring, and Roman cuts him off with an uppercut, and that's the end of Sammy for a long time. And honestly, this felt to me, I mean, I talked about the slow beginning already, but this felt to me like one of those, the classic Japanese formula where it's fit for 15 minutes, like, this is good, but this is nothing memorable. And like the last 50 minutes, like, this is something I will never forget as long as I live. Because it's just Roman beating up Sammy slowly for a long-ass time. Occasionally there's big hope spots, the reverse leapfrog, do a bunch of strikes, a big sunset flip powerbomb. And Sammy makes a legit comeback. Goes for a haluva kick, it appears, but thinks twice about it. Goes for a Superman punch instead, which the camera missed. Gets exploded into the corner. Goes for the kick. Oh, that was where he goes for the punch instead. Then hits the kick. Roman kicks out of the first haluva kick. So he tries another one. Roman rolls outside. Sammy tries this through the ropes DDT, gets right into an uppercut and cut off again. The part where I think everyone really thought Sammy was going to win was when Roman goes for a spear on the floor, goes through the barricade. Sammy throws him in. Roman misses a frantic desperation punch, eats the blue thunder bomb for 2. I think that's the part where everyone most thought Sammy was going to win. And there were other near falls. There's a ref bump, which is where Sammy gets the haluva kick, and a visual pin, like a 6 count, where Roman was down. Jimmy Uso hits the ring. He hits a bunch of super kicks. He hits a top rope splash. Puts Roman on top. A second official runs out. Even the second official theoretically could have seen Jimmy in the ring all the time, called for a DQ. He gets the pin, but Sammy kicks out, and the whole building is just pissing themselves. They teased a second ref bump, which is pretty awesome, actually, because the crowd believed it was going to happen. Jimmy is booted off the apron. Roman hits a spear for 2. So Roman's back in control now. And things slow down again. He's smacking Sammy around. He's bad-mouthing him. And they do a parade of Superman punches by both dudes. And finally, the second ref is the second time actually taken out. Roman's standing tall. And Heyman confirms to him that both referees are down, and so is Sammy. So Roman calls for a chair. And he gets the chair, but here's Jey Uso to return and stop Roman from using this chair. Roman says, fine, you do it then. Prove your loyalty. And they did the bit, like when Roman turned his back on Seth Rollins and the Shield broke up, like when Roman turned his back on Sammy at the Rumble, where everyone thinks he's going to get hit with a chair, but Jey won't do it. And so Roman gets in Jey's face, chews him out, and Jey is just standing there taking it. Sammy recovers, goes to the spear, Roman dodges, Jey eats it, and Roman beats Sammy with a chair repeatedly. The air is just immediately sucked out of the room. And once that happened, once Sammy speared Jey and both Usos were down, and there was only one way to skin at this point, the crowd knew this is not going to happen. We came here hoping it would happen, thinking it probably wouldn't, but hoping maybe it would, and now we know it won't. And finally, Roman hits a spear, makes a cover. There's still no official, but one crawls in and counts 3. And as much as everyone was talking about how hot the crowd was to start, and they were hot, I just mentioned they were the hottest crowd I've seen for this company in like close to a decade, I will remember more the silence at the end. And this is not a shocked silence. This is not Ivan Koloff beating Bruno. This is not Brock Lesnar beating The Undertaker, which actually wasn't silent. It was gasps. This was depression. This crowd went from manic energy to sullen, silent depression like that. Instantly. It was amazing. It was like, how? I don't want to say kill a crowd, because the crowd got a great match, even if their hero didn't win. But you've never seen an entire building just go dead like that. It was amazing. So Jimmy and Roman attack, and they do something to try and send the crowd home a little bit happy. Kevin Owens appears to make the save. Everyone wakes up again. He is going crazy. he puts Jimmy Uso through a table. He's stalking Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman chooses this moment to get physical and attack Kevin with the weakest forearms and elbows and punches he ever saw. So Owens turns to menace Heyman. There is no greater fan of Paul Heyman as an on-screen character than myself. When Paul Heyman looks at Owens in terror and then sneers at Owens, "Screw him! I love you!" I laughed so hard. But didn't work. He got stunned, and Sammy laid out Roman with a haluva kick. Owens did leave. There was no big reunion with Sammy. He did not shake hands. He did not bump fists. Didn't hug. They just had a tense stare as Owens made his exit. But there you go. Roman Reigns is still champion. Sami Zayn did not fulfill his hometown dream. A masterclass in teasing a fan base that something they want is going to happen, and then yanking it away. Whether that's a good thing or not is up for debate.
Well, it is up for debate, and I watched that match, as I talked about on Observer Radio yesterday, twice, because I got into the rental car, and on the way to here, I watched the end of the match on Peacock, the last probably 15 minutes or so. And I just remember watching that finish in the car, and I thought, that is what you came up with for a finish? And then, I had figured that Roman Reigns was retaining. That's what I'd figured. And then I went home and I watched it again. And I watched the entire thing. I watched the entrances. I watched the opening where they wouldn't shut up about Sami Zayn. This was coming off SmackDown, by the way, where Sami Zayn got Pat LaPrade went back and the Hogan Montreal, and he went through all of the big ovations in Montreal, and nobody has ever gotten a longer sustained ovation in Montreal than Sami Zayn. So I watched that. I watched the reaction. I watched the reaction of the crowd when it was over, and I thought two things. Number one, I thought, if Roman Reigns was going to retain, which I had thought, they needed to come up with something awesome. And this was not awesome, what they came up with. And second, I watched this thing, and I'm sorry, Sami Zayn should have won the title from Roman Reigns in his hometown. It would have been one of the most memorable moments in the history of wrestling. And I've had a lot of people, they're in the chat right now. They're on the board, they're on Twitter, they're everywhere, telling me that I'm wrong. And they've all got different reasons for why I'm wrong. And instead of yelling at these people and saying they're stupid, which of course I would never do, I have simply asked them why. Whenever they come up with something, it's like, why? For example, they go, well, Cody winning at WrestleMania is better for business. And it's like, why? Okay, I listen, if you want to argue that Cody is a better choice as a long-term champion than Roman Reigns, I am not going to argue that. Cody is. What does that have to do with Montreal? People go, well, if Cody is going to become the champion, why would you have someone else win it a week before WrestleMania or a month before WrestleMania? You can't do that.
6 weeks.
Why? Okay, why? And here's the thing. We have seen throughout history a lot of things that have been memorable and that have changed the history of wrestling in one way or the other, and they weren't perfect. Do you guys know that Mick Foley, Mankind, an all-time great Hall of Famer, do you realize that he never held the WWF title for more than 26 days? His longest reign ever was 26 days. So I don't want to hear the argument that, you're going to have Sammy win in Montreal and then lose in 4 weeks to Roman Reigns or then lose at WrestleMania. What a geek. Was Mick Foley, do you consider Mick Foley to be a geek because he never held the title. His longest reign of 3 was 26 days. Do you know what his shortest reign as WWF champion was, Vinny? Do you remember his shortest WWF championship reign?
I'm pretty sure he had one for 24 hours.
1 day. Do you remember the circumstances?
Yes.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
They built up and they built up and they built up that Triple H was going to win the title. Triple H ends up in a 3-way at SummerSlam. Mankind walks out as the champion. And 24 hours later, Triple H beat Mankind and won the title. Don't you think maybe if Triple H was going to be the guy, maybe he should have beaten Steve Austin at SummerSlam? Well, yeah, that's probably what they should have done. But you know what? They didn't. And did that in any way prevent Triple H from becoming an all-time Hall of Famer in professional wrestling? You may not have liked what they did. It may have taken him a little longer to get to that level. But ultimately, did it matter? No. If Sami Zayn won in Montreal, Sami Zayn goes to WrestleMania, Cody beats Sami Zayn, or maybe Cody beats Roman or whoever, you do a 3-way or whatever, and Cody wins the title there. If Cody is really the guy that is going to carry this on for the next several years, you're telling me that if he had beaten Sami, or he had beaten Roman, or there'd been a 3-way because Sami won it a month earlier in Montreal, that's going to put the brakes on Cody's reign as champion? That's going to prevent him from getting to the next level? No, it's not. It's going to be fine. Business. I had people going, you're gonna put the title on Sami Zayn for a town, for one town? Brothers, listen, it ain't one town. I look at the quarters every week. Do you know who is moving numbers more than anybody else? It's not Roman Reigns. It's Sami Zayn. You put Sami Zayn on a show, and the show goes like this. It goes like this on a show where Roman's there, and it goes like that on a show where Roman's not there. Because it's not Roman, it's Sami Zayn. So, in fact, it's not for a city. He's the biggest mover that this company has seen in years. Your exception is maybe John Cena makes a one-time return for a SmackDown. The show does $2.8 million or whatever. But you know what? Sami Zayn has been doing quarters that have been in $2.8 million. So it's not a town. He's the most over guy in the company right now. So anyway, if you have a good argument for why you just can't have Sami Zayn win in Montreal, I want to hear it. And I want to hear an example of how this did not work at some other point in history. Because, in fact, probably the best people could come up with was, oh, well, Kerry Von Erich won the title from Ric Flair, and then, he lost it a month later, and, oh, man, it wasn't the best thing for yeah, you know what, it wasn't. But you know what? People are still talking about that fucking match that took place when I was 10. It's a historic match. It's a match people are going to talk about until the end of time. And you had the opportunity to do it here, and you didn't. And it's never going to be like this again. He's going to go to Montreal. He's going to get a huge ovation and everything like that. But this was the one chance to do it, and they didn't do it. Even if they decide tomorrow, man, we fucked it up. Let's do it at WrestleMania. There's 52. It won't be the same at WrestleMania with 55,000 people.
No,
this was the night, and you didn't do it, and nobody has given me an argument about why it just had to be done this way, and you couldn't have given him a win in Montreal. There hasn't been one good reason given to me.
Well, I will not be the one to break that streak. I will not. I got no good reason they couldn't have done it here. There's 6 weeks between now and Mania. There's plenty of time to take the title off Sami, put it back on Roman, whatever you want to do a 3-way. There's 100 things you can do between now and then. This is the key. It is a missed opportunity. Even if they do a rematch, if they do SummerSlam in Montreal and Sami wins there, it won't be the same. It'll be a great match. It will do very well, but you get one chance to make a first impression. And that was it. So
Murder Clown here is driving me nuts. You still need him to be champion going into Mania because they've gone too far. What, with Roman? There's no rule that because Roman has been champion for 900 days, that he has to be unbeaten before he loses to Cody. Do you want to look up how long Bob Backlund was the WWF champion? And did it go from Bob Backlund straight to Hulk Hogan? Did they capitalize on how many years Bob Backlund was champion? No, they had what they've had countless times throughout history, which is called a transitional champion. It was even better, in fact, than Hulk Hogan won it from the Iron Sheik. That was even better than him just winning it from Bob Backlund. Because it doesn't matter if Roman has been champion for 900 days. Listen, Cody can win it from Roman if he's been champion for 900 days, for 1900 days, for 1 day. It doesn't matter. What matters is Cody getting the title and being portrayed and pushed as the next big thing. That's what matters. Who did John Cena win his title from? Who did John Cena win the first title from?
JBL.
JBL. Bradshaw.
Yeah.
He won it from Bradshaw. Did he win it from The Rock? Did he win it from Stone Cold Steve Austin? Did he win it from Triple H? Did it fucking matter? The answer is no, 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 and no. So no, to be the top guy in WWE, Cody does not need to win it from Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns doesn't need to be the champion for 300,000 fucking years to make the next guy the next big thing. It doesn't need to be that way. All that matters in wrestling, it's fucking fake, is what are we going to do on this day that's going to work? That's it. And Sammy could have won the title here. He could have gone to WrestleMania and lost it to Cody Rhodes. He could have gone to WrestleMania for a three-way with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Cody could have pinned Roman. He could have pinned Sammy. He could have pinned whoever. Sammy could have lost it on SmackDown to Roman in 4 weeks. Nothing changes. But you fucked up not doing it in Montreal. And you can never get this moment back. It's done. It's over. That's it.
Well, that's the show, everybody.
That's the show.
I don't know what to tell you, man. That's the main event at the end of the show.
Christ.